Our article deals with the cross-fluctuation of two ecosystems. One ecosystem, the Baltic Main Basin, has a large cod population that fluctuates based on other factors such as fishing, temperature, and nutrient emissions. The other ecosystem, the Gulf of Riga, is a sink habitat for cod. A sink habitat is a habitat where reproduction is insufficient to balance the mortality. This means that the cod cannot survive long-term in this system. The high salt levels make it impossible for the cod to reproduce. Thus, the cod only survive in the system with constant migration from the Baltic Basin. The researchers have collected data from 35 years of tracking the cod and other species in the Gulf of Riga. They compared the biomass of the cod in the Baltic Basin over the time period and also give a graph of the distribution of the cod in the basin over 3 periods of fluctuation. Then they examined the biomass of the herring in the Gulf of Riga in relation to the biomass of the cod, as well as the herring abundance and size. In addition to the herrings, they also measured the biomass of the other significant parts of the food chain, the copepods and cladorcines. They also observed the biomass of chlorophyll A that was produced and the Secchi depth, which is the depth of the transparency of the water.
The dotted lines on the graph show the years where the cross-fluctuation occurred. From the data, the overflow only occurred from 1978 to 1987. The scientists aggregated all of the data into one chart that uses generalized additive models, GAMs, to show connections between all of the biomasses of the different species. The cod only migrate to the Gulf of Riga system when the Baltic Main Basin has an overpopulation of cod. The migration of cod makes the Gulf of Riga ecosystem fluctuate. The influx of cod affects their main prey in the Gulf of Riga, the herring. The herring is the main predator in the Gulf of Riga system, but with the influx of cod, the herring becomes one of the prey. The food chain shifts and the population of herring decreases.
Because of the predation of herring, the main food source of the herring, the copepods and the cladorcines, increases when the two ecosystems cross because of decrease of herrings. While the systems cross, the decrease in herrings allows the remaining herrings to have less competition, so the relative size of the herrings actually increases while the population decreases. The graph of the main fish community shows the decrease in herring. There is also a clear lag in Cascade of the herring and sprat population. The cross of the systems allows two food chains that are not normally connected to interact. In the density-dependent ideal free distribution theory, the population would have spread out only in the Baltic Basin system and would not have needed the extra space. However, because the population depend on the density, the cod had to spread to the Gulf of Riga. Other factors such as salinity and oxygen levels in the Baltic Basin are major factors controlling the flux of cod into the Gulf of Riga, along with the cod fishing industry. If the levels of oxygen are low and the fishing is high, the flux will not happen and the cod population will be limited, so the distribution range will not overrun to the Gulf of Riga.
This dispersal of species into another habitat may permanently alter the predator-prey relationships, the interspecies interactions, and the structure of the food web. However, because the Gulf of Riga was a sink habitat for cod, there was not a permanent effect on the ecosystem. On the other hand, this same phenomenon might destroy more fragile ecosystems if an external species is introduced. Therefore, this effect must be studied in order to prevent the disastrous effect of mixing ecosystems in other places, like effects of destruction of habitats or even extinction of species. Also, by observing the cross-fluctuation effects, it could be extrapolated to possible effects of adding another species to an existing ecosystem. Thus, the effects of an external species could be determined before it caused a disruption in the system. For example, the effect of kudzu could have been determined before it took over the other native species in North America. Then, preventative measures could be taken to protect native species and ecosystems.